Now on Denver 7, Texas law enforcement admitting they made mistakes when responding to a mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas.
It was a wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that.
As that community begins the healing process, the families of Colorado mass shooting victims are offering help.
We can now turn around and give to other people to help them on this journey that nobody wants to take.
Plus, as Coloradans enjoy their long holiday weekend, one group is making sure we all know what Memorial Day is really about.
But it would be a shame to go these 3 days without remembering why we have the weekend.
Right side O'Connor. 6 seconds. Helm score!
And a big win for the Avs in the final seconds of the game. See the incredible goal that's sending them to the Western Conference Finals.
We start out with breaking news. Denver police are looking for 3 missing people who they say were kidnapped. Witnesses say that 24-year-old Francesca Tafoya and her 2 young children were taken by force around 10 this morning in the area of East 40th Street and Colorado Boulevard. Police say the suspect is the children's father, 28-year-old Julian Marufo, and that they all may be traveling in a black 2001 Chevrolet Subaru SUV with temporary Colorado plates. I want to make a correction there. A 2001 Chevrolet Suburban SUV with temporary Colorado plates. If you see them or the SUV, please call 911.
Thank you so much for watching Denver 7 News at 5. I'm Jacqueline Allen.
And I'm Brian Wang. Now to our other top story. Here's a live look at the growing memorial in front of the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. That's where a gunman killed 19 children and 2 adults earlier this week.
And tonight we are learning more about the stunning admission from Texas law enforcement. They admitted several mistakes were made when responding to the scene and that police should have acted sooner to stop the shooter.
For the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was a wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that.
We're also learning that within 8 minutes of the shooter entering the school, 7 local police officers were also inside the school but did not enter the classroom. 30 minutes later, at least 19 police officers were outside of that classroom but waited 47 minutes before entering and killing the shooter.
Was a cascade of errors. Even before the gunfire, a door was propped open, an officer drove right past the suspect, and then the worst, the delay in sending officers in.
Now, Uvalde's district attorney says she will decide on any charges once the investigation into the shooting and law enforcement's conduct is complete. In the meantime, President Biden and the First Lady will travel to Uvalde tomorrow to meet with the families of the victims.
We're getting reaction from survivors of other mass shootings and their thoughts on the tragedy in Uvalde. Missy Mendo was a freshman at Columbine High School in 1999 when the shooting happened there. This morning, she told CNN that it's sickening to see the same thing happening 23 years later.
I was told 23 years ago that this was never going to happen again. And I would have never thought I would be sitting here speaking to a well-known news station about something new that had happened in our country. It's heartbreaking.
And often after these mass shootings, the victims' families and survivors like her feel themselves overwhelmed.
But a Texas couple with ties to a Colorado tragedy is hoping to change that. Here's Denver 7's Patrick Perez with their story.
This July 20th will mark 10 years since the Aurora Theater shooting that killed 12 people and injured dozens of others. One of the victims, Jessie, she was just 24 years old.
If the young man who was with her in the theater had not called us to tell us what had happened, we would have been hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what had happened, what we needed to do, where we needed to go.
Sandy and Lonnie Phillips have made it their mission since then to honor their daughter and making sure no other family goes through something like this alone.
We want to honor the experiences that we've had that we can now turn around and give to other people to help them on this journey that nobody wants to take.
Just recently, they were in Buffalo, New York, visiting a community affected by yet another mass shooting in our country. Then, as they were sharing their journey with others there, they found out another mass shooting had occurred, this time in Uvalde, Texas, not too far from their hometown of San Antonio. They got on a plane as quickly as they could.
We're heading back there now, so we can try to help the people and the survivors in the community that's been so dramatically traumatically affected.
Lonnie says the scene in Uvalde is just like the other 19 they've been to, somber and heartbreaking.
We found that the crowd just mulling around, some of them weeping.
But as devastating as it is, the couple says it's also infuriating that it's happened again and again and again. They praise changes in state laws, but are calling on the federal government to do more.
It continues to happen because our politicians will not grow a backbone and do what's right for this country and the people of this country.
Until that change happens, they'll be at the next scene, helping guide others one tragedy at a time. Patrick Perez, Denver 7.
Patrick, thank you. Sandy and Lonnie have a nonprofit called Survivors Empowered. They wrote a book about the Aurora theater shooting. If you'd like to support their efforts, we have a link to their website on thedenverchannel.com.
Several U.S. lawmakers are in Mexico this weekend to learn more about that country's abortion programs. Colorado State Senator Julie Gonzalez is there. She says the U.S. is set to reduce access. Mexico has recently relaxed its restrictions.
We have a lot to learn, and I've learned a ton over the past several days about how to change some of our form of thinking, learning from this Mexican model.
In Mexico, activists have for years helped women skirt abortion bans by providing information about how to induce a medication abortion using easily accessible pills there. Mexico is expecting more Americans to head south to seek out those services.
All right, it's finally here. It's Memorial Day weekend, and while many are thinking about their outdoor barbecues, it's also important to remember why we have the long weekend. Denver 7's Christian Lopez shows us how the Colorado Freedom Memorial in Aurora is honoring our fallen military members.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
On this Memorial Day weekend in 2022, we gather as a community to honor the unique lives of those who died in service to Colorado and our nation.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars.
It's always important to be grateful for where your gifts come from.
The gift he's talking about, our freedom.
Men and women who many drafted, others who raised their right hand and said, I want to serve my country, who went off to protect freedom in places they had never heard of, all around the world, with the intent that it would secure our freedom as well.
Pausing our busy everyday lives to remember military veterans who gave the ultimate sacrifice.
It's a great start to the summer, of course, a big 3-day weekend when people want to camp and barbecue and have fun, and they should. That's all the purpose of our freedom, that we're allowed to do those things. But it would be a shame to go these 3 days without remembering why we have the weekend.
Hundreds attended the Colorado Remembers event in Aurora to do just that.
This is a good way to honor them and also give people memories of what it was like back then.
Phil Curry, a retired Navy pilot, was there to show people a little piece of history.
Some of them start even crying. They sit in it and they just, it brings back some bad and good memories for them.
When you leave here, you'll feel a little bit more gratitude for those who gave all, and maybe at a time when we could use it, a little prouder of the country you live in.
And the Colorado Freedom Memorial is a place people can visit year-round, and it honors the memory of Coloradans who left to fight for freedom and never returned. Reporting in Aurora, I'm Christian Lopez, Denver 7.
Wow, what a patriotic story. Thank you, Christian. Now, Avs fans can breathe a little easier today as the team is now headed to the Western Conference Finals after beating the Blues last night.
Go Avs. Sports anchor Nick Rothschild joins us in studio now. Nick, they sealed the deal with an absolutely incredible second goal.
Yeah, compared to Game 5, Avs fans were sweating this one all the way up until the end. Game 6 was one they certainly could have lost, but the better team prevailed thanks to clutch play by fourth liner Darren Helm. The 15-year NHL veteran played a puck off the boards and into the back of the net. His first playoff goal in 6 years. Helm's individual brilliance underlines the Avs' resiliency as a team.
We just stuck with it. We kept, there was no frustration on the bench. We kept rolling them over, keeping the pressure on, and The main thing was the belief. We kept believing that we get the job done.
We talked about how important it is in the playoffs to bounce back after losses, no matter how tough they are, and come into this building. And obviously we had some success here this series, but it's not an easy building to play in. But as a team, we rallied around the challenge, and definitely proud of the way we handled it.
We're going to do more celebrating of last night's win coming up in sports, but for now, let's chat Western Conference Finals. The Avs will face the Edmonton Oilers, who feature perhaps the league's best player in Connor McDavid. But the Avalanche have Nathan MacKinnon. He's no scrub, and that will be a matchup worth watching.
Obviously, they have two of the most dangerous players in the league right now. Really tough team to play against. It's going to be a full team effort to shut those guys down, obviously. Got to stay out of the box.
I mean, you certainly see what other guys are doing around the league. And he certainly elevated his play there, in that round. And, like Tyson said, he's going to be a handful. We're going to have to take care of him.
Now, you may have recognized the guy sitting next to McDavid there. That's longtime Avs defenseman Tyson Berry, now playing in Edmonton. He's got an interesting take on this series. We'll check that out later on.
All right, very good. Thank you, Nick. And still to come, it's one of the biggest travel weekends of the year. A look at what you can expect on the roads and in the skies for Memorial Day weekend.
Plus, one of Colorado's biggest water parks is finally back open. Taking site opening day at Waterworld next.
I'm meteorologist Stacey Donaldson. This was our last warm day of the weekend. Temperatures in the upper 80s here around the metro area. We officially hit 88 for our afternoon high today, but we're going to be cooling things off for the rest of the holiday, and we'll talk more about that forecast coming up.